Hello everybody, welcome back to the 1.0 exploration series for Elden Ring. Being the spooky season, I decided to go ahead and start with Caelid for this next part, as I was going to do Aeonia or the Shifa River, but it felt appropriate for the time. I have made 2 parts before this if you missed them and you want to catch up on some of the basic stuff that's different with the game. But with that, let's begin. This treasure card thingy has a chest on it, of course, but the actual chest that it has doesn't have anything inside it. Now, the item that is missing in this is the Greatsword. Now, this isn't the first empty chest we get, or the first weapon that's been missing in this game. But what's notable about this weapon is that it has been documented that FromSoft Miyazaki decided to pay tribute to Kentaro Miura after having passed away during development of this game, and actually took the Greatsword and made it look even more so like Guts' Dragon Slayer and such. Now, whether the weapon itself didn't exist at all before this point, and it was created for that, or they simply modified to look more like it, I guess I can't be sure about that. It is a classic weapon from the Soul series, so it's hard to believe they just never thought to include it in this one. But the story for this specific weapon is definitely a little more unique than all the other ones I've been missing so far. Now, behind the first Erdtree avatar you're likely to find in Caelid, you will find a catacombs. It's just called the Minor Erdtree Catacomb. And the Stick of America for that boss actually didn't work on release. And it seems like it's the same case in the 1.0 version of the game. So it's just been an issue with the coding ever since the disc version. It was fixed in one of the 1.01s or maybe 102. Shortly after the game's release, but it definitely wasn't working at launch. In the Fort Greyoll, where you find this Chimera enemy, and where you can find the Starkgorge talisman, and this chest right here, there's no item again. And this item is supposed to be the Katar, the fist weapon, based on the real life Katar. In the jail cave, there's this one chest that also has an item missing, although this one is just a somber stone, so potentially useful depending on your build and what you need, but definitely not as major as a whole weapon being gone. On a similar note, the Wakizashi is missing in this area. It's normally in this little cell right here, but it's just not there. A sad one, it's a weapon I like. If you're unaware, it's a dagger class weapon, but if you power stance it with a katana, it will have the dual katana power stance, at least in the left hand. The dragon boss, the King Inksikes or whatever you pronounce it, I noticed that his big giant lingering cloud attack that is supposed to be his special attack lasts a long time. This attack's already pretty rough in that it's a little bit hard to avoid because of the huge radius it has, but then making it last this long is definitely very tedious, so I'm glad this was fixed. This Knight's Cavalry near the south part of Caelid, I think it might just be a bug, but it died once I knocked him off his horse instantly, and I think that's a bug because I actually did the same to another one later, and it didn't die instantly. So this could have been just a bug and not a 1.0 thing. But I did notice that this Knight's Cavalry died when it hit the floor, basically. The Deathrite Bird, which is likely the first one you encounter if you travel here at night, here has a different appearance. Its wings are more yellow-orange hued. And at first I thought those feathers were a lot more visible than they should be, but it turns out that they're similar enough to the post-release version. They just have a different color. The Rotten Dog Spirit Ashes aren't where they're supposed to be, right here near Celia. And on a similar note, the Staff of Loss, which is in one of these balconies, is also not there. Going back to Limgrave and getting caught by the trap chest in Akio Lake will still take you to the same place. But one funny note is that the chest that's right next to it with the gravity throwable weapons is actually empty as well. There's no items in there as well. Now, killing one of these enemies, I had this happen. I doubt it's specific to this patch, but I haven't seen it post-release. And nothing weird happened. It just died in a normal scenario, didn't fall to his death or anything, and it just did that. So I don't know, just something funny happened in my playthrough. In this same tunnel, this item at the back right here is supposed to be the Faithful Canvas Talisman, which is the item that increases incantation damage. A pretty significant item, I would say, that to be missing. If I had to guess, it probably is somewhere else, but this is where it's supposed to be normally, and it's not. The Magma Worm and Gale Tunnel seem to be aggro pretty much immediately as I crossed through the door. Also, whenever I staggered it to do the post thingy, it didn't have the highlight it normally does, which I did notice in some other occasions. Another staff that seems to be missing is the Meteorite Staff, which is a pretty useful one early on. It has an S scaling and it doesn't require upgrading. Actually, it can be upgraded at all. So this one is definitely a little bit of a hit for anyone who would like to play this and have a staff like that early on. The drops that Millicent has in 1.0 when she evades you is definitely pitiful. Not that she drops anything particularly useful or unique in the post-release, but she does drop a lot of runes, so it could be really nice if you need those. Here's an interesting one. Commander O'Neill has a different soundtrack, which is the dragon track, weirdly enough. I don't know how early or late into development these titles were named, but it certainly was misplaced here. Maybe it was just a filler one for now. For reference, the title that was used later is called All Warriors. And speaking of Commander O'Neill, he summons a disturbing amount of spirits in the second phase of the fight. As opposed to the 3 axe wielding ones that he does 5, which is ridiculous. Those guys are almost the hardest part of the fight, so it's definitely really jarring to see that. Now, having the item you need to do Melisand's quest, after giving her the needle and passing out, once she wakes up, she's actually still sitting down for that part of the quest line. But once you go see Gowry, or whatever his name is, she is standing like she normally will be in the later parts of this quest line. When looking at where the Grey Jar will be from far away, it seems that the game just didn't want to load the Grey Jar at the time. And when looking closer, you can see that even that little stadium has a low poly model version of it, which makes sense. But I assume they did want to at least show the Grey Jar from far away to catch your attention. And so they decided to increase its render distance. The exploding bug right here does not exist, and it does seem like a very random one to remember, but it is very important in one of the speedrun routes, which is a +8 one. So it's a late game stone you can get really early. And you can even get a +9 right away after, so. The black flame effect on this enemy, this Godskin servant, has a different color, has more like a black-red coloring, maybe a little bit of orange, which might be a little bit more akin to Destined Death, but it's not quite the same either, so it's definitely a little bit strange. Once we actually got to Godskin Apostle, you can see that the music it plays is not the iconic Godskin Apostle song, one of the most memorable songs in the soundtrack, unfortunately. Now, I have heard whispers that the Godskin song is in the game elsewhere, but we'll get to that when we get there, if it is. Another note too is that on the second phase, the little effect that shows you around the boss that it is in phase 2 actually is a similar hue to the one from the servant we just talked about. So it's a little interesting that Godskin Apostle, this normal attack seem to have that black and white flame color, but it is an exception here and there. Whatever the reason, it's obviously probably better to just have them all consistent if they are related. For any poise bros, this is probably a sad one. The Bull Poise Talisman in this cave right here, the Dragonsbarrow cave, does not exist. I did check around the whole cave, didn't seem to be there at all, unfortunately. The giant dragon Greyoll that you can kill while it's passive, the rune amount you get is a lot less. It is just above 25,000 when it auto kills a lot of the small dragons as well, where in the current patch you get 80,000. So perhaps maybe a little busted given that it's just an easy way to farm runes by just killing it by the tail, if you have bleed especially, but alas. An interesting, very much I assume unintended issue is that in this cave with the 3 crystalline enemies, whatever, the snails can actually shoot their projectiles through the fog gate, and it's very tedious, that's for sure. Like if you're anywhere near the fight, like it's already a very tedious fight, and then to have that on top of it, no. That's obviously fixed later on. The Blackblade Kindred song is also wrong. It plays the Archery Knight theme, which I think lore-wise might be okay-ish. Like, it kind of fits in a way, if I remember correctly. But in the post-release, they definitely get their own track. The Death's Kindred, I believe it's the song that's being played now. Now, here's something I didn't actually know about until I started researching for this series. There's actually a drop down here to the left of the Bestial Sanctum, where you can find a couple items. Now, the one I was looking for, the Dragon Crest Shield one, the base one, wasn't here at all. And this is where I thought I would find another item because the placement of 3 items have been kind of swapped around, but it's not here. But regardless, one thing that I found even more interesting once I got here is that the Azula Beastman ashes are found here. Normally, that would be found in Farum Azula, so at the end of the game. So these ashes are potentially really, really strong, I could assume. Unless they're scaled down for this part of the game or so. Over in Redmane Castle, you can see that there's 3 Chimera enemies in this part. Thankfully they can actually hurt each other, so killing them was actually not the worst ever. But 3 of them? No thanks. The one item that was missing that was very noteworthy to my eye was that the Flamberge that's behind this Mad Pumpkin is just not there. The Strength Bros are really hurting for this one. Their Claymore is not in the Weeping Peninsula. The greatsword isn't in this video as well, and the flamberge now, so. And they're all classic FromSoft weapons, so I'm guessing they might be elsewhere, but I've yet to come across them. We'll have to see eventually. Now, since I did this video a little bit out of order and got my butt kicked by a lot of bosses because I skipped all of Aeonia to get ahead on Caelid, I actually can't trigger the Radon Festival at all. So I'm actually going to end this video here and not go to Radon. Just kidding, I'm just going to use a skip to get to him. The skip is patched now, but you can still do it 1.0. I will get back to the Radon Festival in another video though. And now for the most ironic one in the whole video. Radon's music is actually different, and it is instead playing Melania's music. And I'm talking even the second phase will have the exact same transition as well. So, I don't know if this is some kind of joke or something, but it's definitely, yeah, I mean, you know, as if you know the lore, you know they're supposed to be essentially rivals. So this one was a little bit funny. I was also told that Radon's Meteor Strike has multiple hitboxes that all do the same amount of damage, so if you get hit by some of the debris, so to speak, from the attack, you'll actually get one shot as well with that. I didn't really feel like testing that. I'll just take the word for it. It hurts no matter what if you get hit by it, so. Okay, so now I decided to restructure the way I've been doing this so far, and now I'm going to discuss a lot of the name changes and stuff like that I thought were noteworthy, or maybe some things around those lines. So to start, we're going to look at the merchant stock differences in this and try to label these as best I can so you can know which ones they are. Now for name changes, the Meteoric Ore Blade is called a Falling Star Blade in 1.0. This is the strength katana that uses some intelligence with gravitas. The Regalia of Aeokides, I have no idea, is named the Aeokides Greatsword, which is interesting because it's not even a greatsword. So, the Flame of Redmane is called Red Lion's Flame. That's the one that a lot of people use on their low-level stuff or whatever. The Lifesteal Fist is called a Taker's Fist. The Poison Moth Flight is called a Venom Plunge. I like that one. The Double Slash is called Slashing Combo. This is essentially the Corpse Piler, the Rivers of Blood weapon art, just without the blood streaks at the end. The Sacred Rings of Light are just called Rings of Light. The Poisonous Mist is called Imbue Poison. And for the Ashes of War, the Rain of Arrows is called Gravity Arrows. Now for spells and incantations, the Night Comet, it was used to be called the Night Dart. The Bestial Sling is called a Bestial Hail. Catch Flame is O Flame. The Flame Sling is Feast Upon Flame. The Whirl O Flame is called Flame Scour Them. Night Maiden's Mist is called Silver Mist of Nokron. Eternal Darkness is called Salian Darkness. And finally, for some of the location differences I found, the Shack of the Rotting is called a Plague Shack in 1.0. Celia Crystal Tunnel is called Celia Glintstone Tunnel. Jail Cave is called Jail Caverns. Close enough. The Isolated Shack is called a Centric Shack, like as I mentioned in another video actually. And just like the other rise, the Lens Rise is called the Glintstone Rise as well. And now for some miscellaneous stuff. One glitch that I forgot to check last time that I remembered only after the video was the chain casting, where you use one of the faster spells that can be repeated quickly and chain it to another spell. Now I couldn't get the normal one that people use in launch to work, the one where you just kind of do it on the ground while running or whatever. I don't know if it's because it doesn't work 1.0 or I was just doing something wrong. I did look up tutorials and stuff, so I assume it's just simple enough that it should have worked, but it doesn't, so I'm not so sure. But the chain casting with the jump that was found a little bit later after it was patched does work. At the very least, one of the versions does work. If I'm doing something wrong, just let me know. Or you know how exactly how it used to be done, let me know. I basically used the spell, like basically sling once and then switched and spammed the next one. I tried it with 2 different seals too, it didn't really work, so I don't know. You let me know. And another just miscellaneous thing I've realized that I missed it about just the general game is that the damage absorption numbers are a little bit off. It seems to maybe want to stick more to zeros and decimals rather than go negative, like it does in current patch. Okay, and now that is all for this video. I suspect the next one I'll do will probably be a shorter one, because I suspect Liurnia will be one of the longest ones. It's a big area, especially if I don't decide to divide it. But I guess we'll see. Maybe if I work on something else first, I'll be willing to do Liurnia, because I'm partly tempted to wait until I can unlock the upper part of the river, where the Mimic Tier is and all that, before I do this one. I'm not really sure. I'll decide as I go. Someone did give me the brilliant idea to eventually, when this series is done, to just put all these together in one long video, which, even though it probably will be a lot of work, sounds like a good idea. Definitely let me know that's something you would like to see. Anyway, thanks to my members for supporting the channel. Thank you for all the love in the last video I put out. All the support and lovely comments that I got definitely got my head back in the game for making videos. And I'm very excited to work on videos again, at least to a similar point as it was like around a year ago, I want to say. So yeah, here's the other parts of the video and other things I think you would like. Consider subscribing if you like what you've seen so far. Consider becoming a member to support the channel more monetarily. But regardless, thank you for watching this video. Expect more Elden Ring 1.0 exploration to come in the near future. Bye bye.